I'm Sean Kaminski, and I'm a tap dancer. I'm from Lombard, Illinois, which is a western suburb of Chicago. I've lived here all my life, and I just recently moved to Iowa City, Iowa. I started dancing at the age of 9. I actually saw a kid in my elementary school talent show perform a tap routine in front of my entire school, and I just went home that day and I told my parents I wanted to tap dance, and my dad didn't believe me, but I kept bugging my mom, and after a couple weeks she finally bought me a pair of tap shoes, and I went in the basement and I'd be tapping every day. I didn't know what I was doing, but I kept tapping. And at the time I was playing 3 sports. I was playing soccer, basketball, and baseball. And within a year and a half, I'd quit all 3 sports and I just danced. Since I played so many sports, I was always competitive, and I still am a competitive person. And so I actually found a way to mix my competitiveness with my dancing, and I joined the Steppin' Out Dance Company when I was 10 years old. I started taking from Donna Johnson, who's the artistic director of Steppin' Out Dance Company, and Donna's basically the godmother of suburban tap dancers. When I first started competing, I only wanted to do tap, but it was a requirement on my team that I had to take ballet and jazz also. So I joined the jazz team. I was horrible at it, which is probably why I'm not a jazz dancer anymore. And in ballet, I always got in trouble because when we were doing all of our little exercises, I found ways to turn them into tap moves, and my ballet teachers growing up were never a big fan of that. My little sister Shannon is also a tap dancer, so that's always kind of been our brother-sister bonding. She's okay at it, I guess. She doesn't like dancing with me too much because I'm maybe a little overcritical of her, but I love her, I guess. For me, competing was even more special because it really gave me a chance to spend time with my family. Our family vacation every year was always our national competition. So if we went to Tennessee, to Florida, to Wisconsin, wherever, that was always my family. That was a whole week we spent with each other, and especially I got to spend time with my grandparents, which unfortunately my grandpa passed away in 2009, which was my last year competing. But for those 9 years, I got to spend a whole week with him in another state, vacationing, and that really gave me a chance that maybe not all my other cousins had, but I got to spend that extra time with him, and I was really happy with that. Once he died, at least I got that extra time. Another major thing I've always done is the Chicago Human Rhythm Project. Since I live only about 30 minutes away from Chicago, I found out pretty young that there was this tap festival that came in, and it's one of the biggest in the country. And I found out about a scholarship audition because my parents were wary of me doing it in the first place. But I got a scholarship my first year, and I actually got a scholarship every single year I ended up going. So I was really lucky for that. And Chicago Human Rhythm Project, or CHRP as we call it, actually brings in tap dancers from New York, from LA, from all over, and they're really the best tap dancers in the country. And I think I started when I was 12. I got my first scholarship there. And that really, at the time, I was already one of the stronger tap dancers at my studio, and it was eye-opening the first time I went to the Rhythm Project and saw kids who weren't on the competition circuit, and because I was always under the impression that we were the best, and Steppin' Out was the best, and I was able to see kids that were doing things with their feet that I didn't know it was possible. And so every year I was able to go there and see exactly how good people can be and how much better people were getting, and it really pushed me to improve. And for that week I was at CHRP, or 2 weeks sometimes, I would dance 6-7 hours a day every day. It's exhausting, but it's so much fun. Through the Chicago Human Rhythm Project, I was actually able to perform in the same shows and on the same stages as I mean, some of the tap greats like Jason Samuel Smith and Dormisha Sumbry Edwards, Derek Grant, Sam Weber, all those guys were in the same shows as I was as a scholarship performer. And really growing up, that was a good ego boost for me to be dancing on the same stage as my heroes that I would sit at home on nights and watch YouTube videos of, and I could still quote those steps that they do just from watching those videos, 5, 6, 7 years ago. I actually had a chance to perform at the Pritzker Pavilion in Millennium Park in front of a crowd of almost 5,000 people with the Grant Park Orchestra. It was it was orchestrated through Chicago Human Rhythm Project. We collaborated with the Grant Park Orchestra, and it was 6 tap dancing boys and 6 Irish dancing girls, and we performed a piece on stage, and that's by far the biggest performance I've ever had. I don't know if I'll ever perform in front of that many people again, but that was kind of a once-in-a-lifetime experience. The Steppin' Out Dance Company is currently housed at Deforest Dance Academy in Elmhurst, Illinois, which is basically my home base. It's where I pretty much learned to tap dance, and it's where I really grew. It's owned by Ashley Gillette, who's also a tap dancer and who's also an alumni of Steppin' Out Dance Company. So really, we've really kind of kept the whole thing in the family, so to say. Ashley was nice enough and trusted me enough to let me substitute teach for her when she was touring back in 2008, I believe. And she was on the road with Savion actually performing in some of his shows, and she gave me the chance to substitute teach some of her classes. And at first, it's just as scary as improv first was for me. But after a couple classes, I started getting more comfortable with it, and I've really been teaching ever since. Right after I graduated high school, I decided I would spend 2 more years at home going to a community college, and really that gave me a chance to teach at my home studio at Deforest Dance Academy, which is where I really always wanted to teach in the first place. From the get-go, I decided that I would eventually transfer out after 2 years at the College of DuPage to a bigger university. At the time, I wasn't sure exactly where I wanted to. I quickly decided that I wanted to go to the University of Iowa, transfer in after 2 years, and attend the Tippy College of Business. So after 2 years at the Deforest Dance Academy teaching, it was time to move to Iowa, and really I wasn't sure what I was going to be able to do with dance once I moved to Iowa. But my parents kept pushing me to send my resume to studios in the university's area, and it was kind of by sheer luck, but I really just sent an email to all the studios with my resume attached, with a simple email with some links to my YouTube videos of my own choreography, of me dancing, of other people performing my choreography. And within a couple of hours, I actually got an email back from the Nolte Academy, which is one of the biggest studios in Iowa. And Leslie Nolte, the director, just said she really liked my work and she really wanted to meet with me. And so when I went to Iowa to look at apartments, I stopped by the studio and we interviewed for a little bit, and 20 minutes later, basically, she gave me a job. Once I transferred over to the University of Iowa, my life got kind of complicated, I guess. All of a sudden I was going from just mostly normal gen ed classes and teaching like 3 or 4 days a week to being the primary tap instructor at a studio, where before I was only teaching some of the tap classes. Now I was teaching most of the tap classes, including having big group dances that competed, having multiple soloists, multiple duets, trios, and at the same time I was going to the University of Iowa, and I'm in a very competitive finance program where there is no slacking between tests, and every project that I have is a big case study that takes hours and hours of group work that I need to meet with people, and mixing both school and dance, it's not easy, because a lot of times I'll wake up at 7:30 a.m., have a couple hours of class, go to the gym, have a couple more hours of class, go home, eat, then go to my studio, teach for a couple hours, maybe have a private, and then have to shoot back over to the university. And at 9:30 at night, I'd have to meet with a group, and we'd work until 12:30, 1 in the morning, and then I'd go home and start it all over again the next day. As of right now, I'm a senior in the Tippy College of Business. I'm about to start my last semester of college. I'm nearing the point where I really have to make a decision and decide if I want to pursue my passion in dance and make that my entire life, and try to teach in other countries or around America even, and perform in other places and meet a lot of people and live as a dancer, which is really what I've always wanted to do. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. Or my other option is getting a job at a finance firm and sitting behind a desk for the rest of my life, which would be probably the easier and more secure route. But I don't want to give up all this time that I've put into this art that I really love, and I don't want to regret not keeping with what I've spent so much of my life working towards already with my dance education and with all the connections I've made. And I don't want to just sit behind a desk. Even though I'm reaching a point where I have to make some sort of decision, I'm just really excited to see what life has in store for me.